Marco Rubio isn't just climbing the ranks. He's executing a full-blown takeover, now holding two of the most powerful roles in American government, Secretary of State and acting National Security Advisor. Rubio's rise has stunned even seasoned D.C. insiders. This kind of dual authority hasn't been seen since Henry Kissinger. But make no mistake, Rubio's not navigating Cold War chessboards. He's wading through a political minefield. The chaos began with Signalgate, a national security meltdown where former National Security Advisor Mike Waltz added a journalist to a Signal group chat discussing military operations. That breach was explosive, but it wasn't the only reason Waltz was ousted. What really happened behind closed doors? That's where the story twists and where Rubio's consolidation of power starts to look less like a promotion and more like a calculated coup. Maggie Haberman, White House correspondent, discusses the recent change in Trump's national security advisor, with Mike Waltz being replaced by Marco Rubio on an interim basis. There is analysis of how Rubio may approach the role differently than Waltz, and the broader issue of Trump giving his diplomats more autonomy to act as shadow secretaries of state.
Trump seems strangely kind of proud of that because it still puts him at the center one way or the other.
Yeah, and he likes his relationships with world leaders are so fascinating in terms of how they interact and, the French leader. But all of this is going on is, the first major shakeup this week in the staffing. We had not seen a major change since Trump took office this term. His national security advisor is out, going to be nominated to be the ambassador to the United Nations here in New York. Obviously, essentially, basically Siberia compared to the West Wing. If you're that far away, you don't have proximity to the president. What do you make of Secretary of State Marco Rubio taking over that role on an interim basis?
So that was something that had been suggested as a possibility many weeks ago, among other options that they were looking at when it seemed as if Mike Waltz was going to leave right after Signalgate. I think it's worth noting, Caitlin, I know you know this, Mike Waltz has been basically in jeopardy in his job since before the inauguration. I mean, this has always been seen as a strange fit. There were a lot of people who didn't like how he was interacting with other members of the team. They thought that he saw himself as a principal as opposed to more of a staffer. And ideologically, they thought that he was just not the best fit. Marco Rubio has done everything he has been asked to do. There is obviously a model for this, the Kissinger model in the past, where he simultaneously wore both hats. Marco Rubio is not coming into this with his own well-defined view of foreign policy that he is going to try to put on Donald Trump. I think he is going to just try to channel Donald Trump, and I think that will be a difference.
Well, and it's fascinating because of how, the envoys that Trump has given really, free reign to operate as they will, have been operating as shadow secretaries of state in some instances.
Correct.
One thing that the Army did confirm today is they are going to be holding a massive military parade on Trump's birthday. And in terms of what that looks like, and this is something I think that it's important for people to know, he has wanted for years.
He's wanted since he took office. I mean, I think my memory is that they were, don't correct me if I'm misremembering, but I believe that
Rubio's alignment with Trump's America First doctrine is central to his rise. And to his survival, really. He's abandoned his previous hawkish stance on issues like China and Ukraine, choosing instead to align with Trump's less interventionist, let's call it unique approach. A pivot many of his critics call an outright desertion of principle. And yes, those critics matter because they highlight an ongoing struggle, a tension really, between political pragmatism and individual conviction. So, Rubio's rise is both strategic and, dare I say, calculated. It shows us just how much adapting to the president's vision, whatever that vision happens to be on any given day, is crucial for survival in Trump's orbit. Of course, there are those who argue Rubio's versatility is exactly what makes him suited to this moment. They point to his ability to tackle Trump's varied domestic and foreign policy puzzles without bringing much of his own ideology to the table. But let's stop to ask, how sustainable is that when the very office he occupies once demanded influence and independent thought? It seems Rubio's roles, multiple as they are, aren't just about consolidation of power within the administration. They're also emblematic of a larger transformation where strong, distinct perspectives in policymaking are being replaced by unwavering loyalty to the White House. Let's dive into the controversy that was, frankly, kind of a turning point. Signalgate. Mike Waltz, The national security advisor, who seemingly had all the right credentials, ended his brief stint at the White House under a cloud of scandal. And it's not just about one mistake. Sure, adding a journalist to a Signal app chat where military plans were being discussed, that was catastrophic. But let me tell you, it wasn't just the security breach that sealed his fate. Waltz represented this, let's say, old school approach to foreign policy, one that was, increasingly at odds with Trump's America First mantra, like his hawkish stance on Russia and China. That just didn't vibe with Trump's broader worldview. And in a way, it kind of isolated him, because within this administration, loyalty to Trump, like total and unfaltering loyalty, seems to matter way more than expertise or, heck, even sound judgment. What's fascinating here is how Waltz's departure wasn't just a routine reshuffle. It was a message, a loud and clear one. If you don't align with the administration's narrative, you're out, and fast. On the flip side, this set the stage for Marco Rubio's rise. Rubio's ability to stay in lockstep with Trump's agenda, even if it means morphing his own views, that's what's keeping him in power. And let's not forget, the ripples of Waltz's ousting go beyond just who holds the position. It has broader implications for how foreign policy is shaped, or really, who gets to shape it. Now let's talk about loyalty, how it's become the defining qualification for leadership within this administration. Marco Rubio, in this case, stands as the perfect example. His rise has been shaped not by challenging ideas or offering innovative solutions, but by aligning almost completely with Trump's vision. Whatever the task, rolling back foreign aid programs, pressuring Ukraine toward a peace agreement, or standing by some of the administration's more, let's call them strict immigration policies, Rubio has done it all with precision and, above all else, loyalty. Take immigration as a starting point. Rubio has overseen the revocation of thousands of student visas, a move some call draconian, but one that resonates with Trump's core supporters. And let's not forget his role in pushing policies that redirected foreign aid, stripping funds from initiatives Trump's base sees as wasteful or, in their words, woke agendas. It's this kind of strategic adaptation that's made him indispensable in Trump's orbit. He's essentially mastered the art of mirroring the president's priorities. And let's be honest, that's the currency of survival in this political landscape. Dare I use the phrases butt kissing at its finest or bootlicker. But here's what we need to consider: the ramifications. When loyalty becomes the cornerstone of governance, what happens to competence, to critical thinking? U.S. relations with key allies, particularly Ukraine and even Iran, hang precariously as a result of this narrow approach. The broader risks include the erosion of global partnerships and perhaps the United States' ability to leverage those relationships when push comes to shove. Can loyalty alone navigate a complex crisis? Because foreign policy isn't just about checking boxes on a domestic agenda. It's about foresight, strategy, and yes, independent decision-making. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of today's episode of The Real 411. Episodes like this remind me why these conversations matter. Diving deep, questioning the narrative, connecting the dots, it's what keeps us informed, empowered, and frankly, on our toes. And I can't thank you enough for being part of this journey with me. Now, if you found today's discussion insightful or even a little thought-provoking, do me this one favor. Share it. Share it with your friends, your family, that coworker who loves debating politics at lunch. And of course, connect with us on social media. That's where you'll find updates, discussions, and maybe just a sneak peek of what's to come. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to The Real 411 on Substack or Spotify. We've got both free and premium options, so you can choose what works best for you. I can't stress enough how much your support, whether it's a subscription, a comment, or just tuning in, means to me and to everyone who works to make this show happen. Because let's face it, the stories that shape our world, they're seldom black and white. They're complex, They're layered, and they deserve the kind of critical reflection we aim for here. So, until next time, stay informed, stay bold, and above all, stay real. This is Dr. 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 signing off.